Today we got a special one for y'all. We really tapping into our Bryce the Block Genius mode, and we finna go present to a nursing home about artificial intelligence. They reached out to your boy through some mutual connections, and they was like, hey, we got some people that wanna come learn about AI. They in a nursing home, so we gotta, structure our knowledge and structure the way we present it in a way that's consumable for them. But we gonna make it fun. So y'all come stay tuned and see what the presentation is like and how it goes, man. Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Bryce Harris. There we go. Cool. My name is Bryce Harris. I'm a product manager at Microsoft. I work on small business Copilot. Copilot is Microsoft's AI product. I'll talk to you guys more about that later on today. But I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, so I'm a native Texan. I just graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a degree in informatics. I also originally majored in computer engineering, so I'm a former engineer as well. So that's a little bit about me. I'm part of the Blacks at Microsoft ERG Employee Resource Group. I work on Small Business Copilot, which is our AI product, and I'll talk more about that today.
Great, and then this is Aaron.
Hey, I'm Aaron Harfield. I've been at Microsoft for about 8 years now. I'm not in the AI side, but I do a lot of, it's called infrastructure as service. So I help a lot of companies move a lot of their servers and applications into our data centers. And my main area is around state and local government. So I handle all of Texas, all of Arizona. I do some California. I do Virginia as well, and also Social Security. So I manage all, 250 of those customers, all state and local government. And I am originally from St. Louis, so I'm not a native Texan, but I've been in Texas about 8 or 9 years. I went to 2 schools. I got my first degree in physics. I got my second degree in electrical engineering, but I went the IT route instead. So nice to meet you all. Bryce is going to be the main presenter, but I'll add some things if needed.
Yeah, so thank you all for coming. I'm sure you guys read the newspapers. You've seen all of the crazy headlines that have been floating around about ChatGPT, AI, what is Microsoft doing, what is OpenAI doing, what is Google doing. And so here's a couple of the headlines that I pulled: changing the world and the work as we know it, how it can impact clinical and healthcare, what is generative AI, and a lot of that is some of the questions that I'm here to answer for you guys today. So feel free to interrupt at any time and ask any questions. I'm here for you all to help you guys understand. So just a little bit of background. AI is kind of like the overall umbrella term for a lot of the different technological advancements that have been happening in recent years, but it really all dates back to the 1950s, which was a huge government-led program. Do we have any veterans in the audience? Nice, thank you for your service, cool. So a lot of artificial intelligence research started in the military. It was part of how can we understand and encode different messaging that we were trying to compete with other people and code and decode the messaging so that people couldn't, interrupt and intercept our messages in war times. And so a lot of that initial research started around projects that had to do with that, and then it also had to do with computer science and things like DARPA. That was like the initial research around the internet and as we see it today. And then you have some research about machine learning, which is like, how can machines and computers, and how can we encode them to think like we do as humans? So I see a table here, it's a brown structure. I know it as a table because I've seen other tables like it, and I was taught as a kid that this is a table, or this is a computer, and I see it as some box with the screen on it, and I know that as a computer. How can we teach computers to recognize objects and see things, and that's where we're getting with neural networks and other types of AI today. Question in the back.
How did AI start in the 50s? What was it, just like binary, or like did they start?
Yeah, exactly. I think all of it is still binary. So that's a great question. It's still binary, but we've just built and built and built and built and built on top of that binary to where now we have what you call large language models, which are still based in binary, but it's able to translate binary to human language. And so we've come a long way. But yeah, you're completely right with that. Does that, I hope that answers the question. Let's see. So yeah, then you have deep learning, which is a machine learning technique based on neural networks. So if you think about neural networks, those are like the brain pathways in your brain, and how do you get to a thought and to a conclusion, and how can a computer get to a thought and a conclusion in a similar fashion? So they kind of started off with brain understanding and a lot of neural science and stuff like that, and then how can they replicate that in a computer and in a machine? So it gets kind of complicated, but today where we are is what's called generative AI, which is the ability for AI and computers to generate their own answers and their own responses and their own images, and I'll show you guys some demos for that later today. So here we have a small video that's going to explain a little bit about language models.
The way we communicate with computers has changed a lot. We used to have to train ourselves how to talk to machines, but now machines are training themselves on how to talk more like us. Large language models are deep learning models that understand and generate text that mirrors natural language. They're trained on massive sets of text-based data. Novels, peer-reviewed studies, Wikipedia entries, tabloid gossip, it's all there. An LLM reads all this raw data and uses it to establish what us tech folk call parameters. Parameters are the different patterns and characteristics an LLM identifies. Things like tone, medium, style, audience, and syntax. More parameters means the model can learn from a wider range of relationships, so that when we communicate with machines, it feels less artificial and more intelligent.
Any questions? That was a little bit fast.
AI puts us in control of the entire world.
You have a question? No. Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, so parameters, that was kind of the big topic that was presented in that video. And you can think of parameters as like the relationships between the different words that you know and also all the words that you know. So if you think about all the words that you've learned throughout your life and your vocabulary, if I say, hey, Bryce, hello, like we know that as a greeting, how can you represent that to a computer which only understands ones and zeros, which is the binary that she mentioned? So if you're taking that base understanding and extrapolating it to a higher thing, like how can you distribute that in a computer? And if I say, hey Bryce, how are you? Or hey Bryce, you know, like the difference in tone, how can we encode that into a computer? That's all about the study of like large language models and where are we going with this. So I'm gonna move forward. So now we get to generative AI.
This is generative AI, the innovative tool that's making AI a household name. Say goodbye to the blank page. With generative AI, you have a superpowered partner that's able to create original content on command. Images, text, music, even code. But where does all this power come from? Large language models trained on huge libraries of data. No, not quite. Now that's a data set. So when you write a prompt, AI is able to identify different patterns and understand you. The more detailed your prompt, the more accurate your output will be. With generative AI, you have a companion to achieve anything. All you have to do is ask.
Cool. Any questions with that one?
Communicating with computers has changed.
Cool. And so I think also going back to the parameters, if we're talking about some of the sizes of these large language models, the ChatGPT model, the way that is built is a 70 billion parameter model. So if you think about the relationship between hey and Bryce and hello and Bryce, what are you doing? You know, if you take all of those different word pair relationships as well as images and text from across the entire internet, that's how they've trained their model. And it's basically able to replicate in a lot of ways how general humans think, because there's 70 billion basically options for them to understand and for them to practice. So that's a little taste there. But I think what I'll say is something interesting we have coming forward is a live demo. So I think that's where we all get to experience the magic of it all.
A lot.
So top 10 use cases for generative AI: content creation and design, language translation and language processing. So as I said before, the language models are not just in English. You know, they expand to Mandarin, Spanish, you know, every language you can imagine in the world has been onboarded to these language models, and then also connecting them in between. So, you know, we're able to have live translation like we've never had before. So that's one of the biggest, most interesting things. Accelerated automation, personalized marketing, chatbots and virtual assistants. So I'm sure many of you, when you call your healthcare people on the phone and you're no longer talking to a human at first, that can be really frustrating. You know, that is AI today. And hopefully, you know, we're working really hard to make those things better, because sometimes even I get frustrated and they're not able to answer my questions. So yeah, predictive analytics and forecasting, fraud detection, creative writing and content generation, medical research and diagnosis, and product service innovation. Question.
So are there just different levels of AI? For example, when I am on the phone call with a healthcare provider, I feel like I'm trying to get my prescription at Walgreens, and they're not understanding me. But if I ask a question on ChatGPT, gosh, they can understand me so much better. What's the difference between that?
Yeah, so I would say the difference between that is the investment. So, you know, a lot of the times ChatGPT has invested billions and billions of dollars into their system. Your healthcare company on the phone probably did not make that similar investment, and so they're not going to have the same result, unfortunately. But, you know, hopefully in the future, what we're seeing is the cost of running these AI applications is decreasing a lot day by day, and so hopefully those things are able to be more distributed around everyone and every company in the world.
So they're not all pulling from the same source?
No. So as I mentioned, the language model piece, there are different language models. So ChatGPT has their own, and they have actually like multiple different language models. And then we have some of our own. And then there's, as you mentioned before when we were in the lobby, the DeepSeek company in China, they have their own language models. So there are many, many different language models, and some of them have the 70 billion parameters, some have 7 billion parameters, and the difference between that is largely in cost. So you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, I like your question just because AI is starting to get very generic term. So what you're seeing, because maybe you might go on a website and you're looking for like help and support, you might see like a chatbot pop up. That's technically AI, but what Bryce is saying, there's a bunch of different AIs, and how complex it gets, it can get complex really quick. But I wanted to bring up some real life scenarios to where, since I do work in state and local government, I also have to manage the IT team that handles a lot of the healthcare. So healthcare is starting to get a lot better with their chatbots and their AI. But for instance, I handle Houston Police Department. Right now they're implementing AI for voice recognition. So when they're on site, it's on, they have mics on them. So when they're on site and they hear a voice, there's a chatbot in their ear basically. It's kind of like a trained chatbot to tell them, all right, this person is, based off his tone, he's not going to be a threat. So then they can access and handle the situation carefully.
That's amazing.
So that's happening. That's where your tax. Since I'm in state and local government, I'm in politics, unfortunately, but that's where your taxpayers' money goes towards. They put it into those. It's called research and development. And then mainly the next time you vote, that's what you're voting on under the scenes to see if that can be implemented.
One of the frustrations I have when I try to get information, you know, and you get the computerized thing, doesn't give me the choice that I want, and you have to keep going. I need to talk to somebody, that's what I want, and
Agent.
it gets very frustrating.
Yeah, I agree. I think as someone who builds some of these applications, specifically a customer support application, one of the things we do is say, how can we escalate to a human agent? Like for our team specifically, that's a foundational piece. Is if we can identify that the AI is not able to answer your question, we need to quickly route you to a human agent. But I'll also say it also comes back to the investment piece, because at the end of the day, human agents you have to pay them, they're expensive. And if you're talking about a global company like Microsoft, where we have every country in the world uses our products, and you would have to train a person in every country to be able to answer all of the questions, it gets really expensive. And so that's kind of where AI comes into play, is for one message that costs us basically a 17th of a cent to answer. And so it's a lot of economics involved, but hopefully it can get better and it can really understand your intent and answer your question in the future.
So how can you get to that person?
How can you get to the person? My favorite thing, honestly, when I talk to chatbots is I immediately just request to go to a person.
Yeah.
But sometimes,
How do you
Let
do
me
it,
speak to your
Bryce?
supervisor.
yeah, that
Okay.
too. That too. You can as soon as you get on there, you can just immediately say, "Can I talk to a supervisor?" You know, but
Let me speak to your supervisor.
sometimes they don't have a supervisor. It depends on the company, you know. So
Well, at least you know how far you've gone.
yeah. Cool.
I thought there was another question over here.
No.
Maybe that's okay.
Oh yeah, so yeah, here's like a slide about the investment piece. So for every $1 that a company invests in AI, they're realizing an average return of $3.50. So a big part of it is a monetary thing here. So you invest $1 million, they're seeing a return of $3.5 million. So it's pretty crazy. So on average, it takes 14 months for organizations to realize a return on their AI investment. So these AI investments are really turning out to be extremely lucrative. They're providing great returns for a lot of organizations. And as you mentioned, sometimes this is what they see when they're making the decision to cut a customer support human team. They see this return on investment of $3.50 for every dollar, but they're not thinking about the end customer, and that's just a bad business practice. But we at Microsoft are definitely focused on trust and compliance. And as I said before, we're routing in the human agents in every way possible. As we tend to scale across all the different markets in the world, we're still doing that work to educate our human agents on how they can help, but then we're also using AI to help them do their job better. If they can answer your question in 5 seconds versus a human agent, you having to wait on the phone for 5 minutes, we'd rather you get your question answered in 5 seconds, but you can still wait the 5 minutes and talk to a human. So.
I have a question for Aaron.
Okay.
Hi. Is there some mandate on what major companies should need to use it, or is it up to the company to choose their investments? You know what I'm saying? Especially from the government side.
Yeah, so for instance, I was talking to the mayor of Arizona last year. Sorry, there we go. I was talking to the mayor of Arizona last year, and she can't necessarily force things. It's more about, all right, this is where we want to change things, because Arizona is becoming a hot zone for a lot of IT things. Even Tesla is moving out there. And I think they have around 13 data center projects. So she's like, I want to get ahead of this thing with security and everything. So she pushes it, and usually, if you're following the chain of command, you're going to want to listen to the person at the top. But usually it's kind of just up to the company to choose if they want this or not.
What's the main source of that return of $3.50? Should it reduce manpower?
Yeah. That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Well, we can't put them to work for the government, what are we gonna do with them?
That's a great question. I personally don't have the answer to that question, but I think that presents a huge societal problem that we're all thinking about today, and that, you know, the leadership of the country has to think about more of, is how are we going to, with all of these jobs that can potentially be replaced, what are these people going to do? To me, my opinion on that is a lot of people are going to go into the creator economy. So, you know, I'm making my content here. Other people are making content about their things and what they know and sharing that information across the world. I think there's just going to be a lot more of that. But yeah, I really can't say.
Universal income.
That too, universal basic income. That is a very valid thing if we can make it happen. Cool. So yeah, here's some more impact statements from some companies you guys might know. CarMax estimates an individual would take 11 years to do what Microsoft was able to do in days. Strawbag is predicting construction project risk with 80% accuracy with Microsoft technologies. And EY is saving 250,000 hours of manual work per client using intelligent document automation. So, any thoughts on those statistics? Cool.
I haven't heard CarMax in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now I have another video demo for you guys. Any farmers? Former farmers, agriculture? No? Oh, one? Cool. All right.
Agriculture is at a crossroads. On one hand, you have innovation, sustainability, progress. On the other, you have sticking to what we know, age-old tradition, and risk being left behind. At Seas, we made that choice years ago, and we've devoted ourselves to it ever since. We want to make a difference in agriculture. As the leading agricultural knowledge and innovation center in Denmark, we want to help farmers be more sustainable and innovative. Combining data and AI, we found a new way to do it, to help farmers take the innovation road and never look back.
Sega's Innovation specializes in helping farmers and food manufacturers to run their business in a more sustainable way. To do that, we use data, huge amounts of data. We spent decades on building massive data sets on cows, dairy, beef, crops, and a lot more. To make sense of all these data, we have put together a data science team. They're tasked with understanding the data and turning it into products and models that we can use to support our partners.
For years, Sega's had an on-premise legacy solution that was hard to maintain and hard to work with. Using Azure Machine Learning, we built an MLOps platform that helps them train, test, and productionalize machine learning models in the easiest possible way. The MLOps platform simplifies the process of using data to develop and test new machine learning models and makes it easier to build them into software products. It also connects to Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform, which allows us to connect to Azure Data Lake Storage Generation 2 and services like Azure Synapse Analytics and Azure Databricks. Another really cool thing we did as part of the collaboration was to build a repeatable MLOps framework that allows Segas to get up and running really quickly with new use cases without having to reinvent the wheel each time.
This platform is allowing us to significantly optimize the machine learning lifecycle. Maintenance costs are down by more than 95%, and the direct cost of running a model have been reduced by more than 80%. Before, all machine learning models were retrained and deployed manually. Now, we have completely automated these processes, allowing us to automatically retrain, test, and deploy models as often as we like. As a result, the average time between retraining has gone from 6 months down to a single day, which is a massive benefit for our users.
Most importantly, we're even better at helping our farmers to be more sustainable and efficient. We can now predict high-risk cows and detect diseases early, up to 90% of the time. Ultimately, this helps the farmers, the food producers, and the organizations to transform our sector and make it better day by day.
chicken farmers that have that.
Any questions about that video?
Yeah, you know, it's suggesting it's saving the farmer money. Yet, as the consumer, prices keep rising. So
Right.
we don't see the savings.
Correct.
Where
is it going? I agree. I have the same question. Go ahead.
Yeah, you don't see those changes because of logistics. So just when that microchip shortage happened, that infected everything everywhere. So a lot of it's in the logistics of transporting everything. So you're not going to see a reduced cost just yet until we kind of get back on our feet with the economy.
Yeah, and I think also going back to your comment about the universal basic income and what jobs are we going to focus on and create and what is going to be the jobs of the future that are super important. I think one thing that AI and robotics and AI is not super good at is teaching and that human connection, especially with children. And so the value of teachers is going to rise exponentially because AI is not able to teach our kids. AI is not able to teach you how to be a human. And I don't think we should try to push it to be that way. And so the value of teachers is going to continue to rise, and those human education points are going to continue to be more and more valuable in our economy in the future. So, but yeah.
We were just thankful because our families are teachers.
Great, yeah, love the teachers, love the teachers. So Copilot is Microsoft's premier AI product. I'm gonna play a video that kind of demonstrates it, and then we're gonna jump into a demo for it.
Has anybody used Copilot on your phone, or you have? Yeah.
Explain it.
I use
still
MS.
don't get it.
Yep. So Copilot is, as I mentioned, with the large language models and the generative AI, Copilot is basically the app that uses all of these technologies. And I think the best way to explain it is for us to try it ourselves. So, yeah.
How do you compare this model of Copilot itself with what you anticipate being in 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, so I think the difference between what we have now and what we have in 2 and 3 years is the ability to understand the user's intent. That's a lot of the work that we're doing is if I ask you a question, hey, I have 2 eggs, some tomatoes, salmon, and some rice in my fridge, what recipe can you give for me? And Copilot might, if it messes up, it'll say, hey, you can make a whole pasta dish, but I only have rice, you know? In the future, it'll be a lot more in active or precise with the answer that it's giving you. And you know, that's just a small example, but you know, you take that to large, like way harder problems like cancer research and medical research. Part of what we're gonna hope for AI is that it can accelerate our ability to find solutions to, you know, cancer and a lot of other diseases. So, yeah, cool. All right, demo.
I have a question for this group. I'm just curious, you know, learning what we're learning right now, and growing up in a time that you all did, what's it like, how open are you to trying these things? And I mean, obviously you're here, so you're curious, and you're gonna leave this room knowing a lot more than your neighbors, right? So I'm just curious. Are we open? Are we ready? Yeah.
One of the questions I was gonna ask, we grew up during a time where people were more suspicious, during the Cold War and stuff. Give us a little feedback on, to reassure us that this information we're putting in is not used inappropriately, I guess. If I want to ask a question about a medical, medical type question, will that be saved and come back to haunt me type thing? I think we have that fear.
I can talk about the security part, and you can probably go back into what's like the 5 or 6 laws of all this stuff.
Yes.
With me working on the government side, there is a lot of compliances in place. So you're kind of talking about, you said healthcare, so you're talking about HIPAA compliant. When you're talking about data security, really you're talking about like CSIS data if we're getting into more like criminal justice. So there's a lot of laws that have already been voted in place like 5 or 10 years ago, to where when I work with these state and local governments, that's what's being done from all different sides of security. So regardless, basically whatever you're putting in there, what happens on the other end is called kind of like password hash or hash encryption. So say if I say dog, you send it off, as soon as it leaves wherever device you have, it gets encrypted. It might show up like 3-4D. And then wherever it's getting sent, will decrypt it. So basically whatever you're sending, it can't necessarily be traced back to you unless we get down to people who hack and things like that. Yeah. But mostly the security is there.
That's exactly, I guess, I'm sorry, my concern, if you want to call it a concern. Laws are for people that follow the law.
Right.
We all know that criminals don't follow the law.
Yeah.
I mean, we can make a law that, don't kill people, and a lot of stuff would go away. But it's not that way. So I understand the part of the encryption and the laws and that kind of stuff. But what's to keep it from being maliciously used?
There you go. That's a good segue to your part.
Yeah, I think in terms of malicious intent, a lot of what we do at Microsoft, we have a huge security team. There's a huge, as much of an investment we're making in AI and improving the technology, I'd probably say there's a 2 or 3 time investment that we're making in security. Microsoft has a statement of Microsoft runs on trust. Internally in the company, we have what's called the Security First Initiative, which is every single feature that we roll out, every single improvement to the product that we make has to be improved by the security and the privacy team. Yeah. And so those people are extremely vital in the advancements of this technology, as they are with any Microsoft product. And like you said, there are going to be bad actors, but we have people in place that actively work against those people. So, that is the best answer I can give. And I'm also not on security. So
yeah, because I was just at a convention in Seattle that Microsoft has hosted for their internal employees. And Judson, who's basically our second in command, all Microsoft, he was there and he was talking about the data security. And I think it was something about around 9 billion attacks a day that Microsoft gets. So there's an entire team. I think they're almost 3,000, 5,000 employees who are
it's more than that.
You think
it's
just dedicated to security attacks and defenses.
Cool.
And then
Totally different topic or subject. I'm an aunt to middle to older teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
What's being done in the school system to introduce them to AI? And how will they get into understanding what they need to be thinking about as they go through education?
I'm not sure about the education piece. That part with government gets a little weird because state and local government, it touches it, but then it doesn't. So I'm not so sure on that part.
Yeah, I can answer that. Okay. So My major, as I said, when I first entered college, I was studying electrical and computer engineering. I wanted to go into things like circuits and building the actual hardware of computers. But then around my sophomore year, I transitioned to a major called informatics, which is a brand new program, first graduating class from UT Austin with that major. And so to answer your question, there are new majors being created, which also touches your point of where are people going to go with their lives with AI coming. My major was extremely centered around this technology and how can we, my concentration within the major is human-centered data science. So how can we use the data that they described of like farms and technology to help improve the human experience? And I think to your point of teenagers and what's happening in schools, I know that children in schools, it can be a little bit scary seeing all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, they grew up on AI algorithms, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of these things run on these algorithms, and they're growing up with iPads in their hands and phones in their hands. So they're already used to it. I think it'll be really interesting to see, 10, 20 years from now what the world looks like and how they're building on top of the technology that all the way started in the 50s. But in terms of the specific curriculum, like I said, my college, UT Austin, they adapted a new major. But for middle schools and high schools, I can't speak exactly of what they're actively doing, but I know there's a lot more technology being taught in school today.
Yeah, I think just because it's best to start with the colleges first and then go down. So I don't even think they have touched the high schools just yet, from my knowledge.
And those kids who are in college don't have 5 to 10 years to think about what they want to do.
Yeah.
In the sense they have to be exposed to it now to go in that direction as you do.
Yeah, I think, but it's still, you still have a chance to live your life. I also worked in a restaurant for a while, and I also worked in a clothing store too. So those were jobs that still have not been replaced, and I still learn and carry those experiences because I work on small business AI. So I was in a small business and I still have a small business that I own today. And how do I carry that experience to help influence the AI? Because other than that, if it was just engineers that have been engineers their whole life and they're influencing the product, they're not going to be able to help small businesses, and they're not going to be able to speak to the experience of someone going through medical issues and stuff like that. Like, you need that human experience to help improve the algorithms and improve the models.
So talking about, children utilizing AI, it kind of makes me think about, like, I'm on the cusp, millennial, Gen Z, and I find, like, when I Google a question, have y'all noticed that an answer comes up that says AI generated response to the question? So it makes me think about, is this really the correct answer that I want? And then it makes me think about ads and advertisement and like clickbait and like, those first couple sites that come up, are they the most pertinent to what I'm trying to find, or are they the companies that just paid the most money? Yeah. How can we what do you suggest for finding the best answer when there's so many people saying this is their correct answer?
Yeah, I agree. I think Google search was one of the biggest, most widely used versions of AI. However, it was heavily influenced by the advertising agencies, and being able to say, hey, what's the best burger in town? Is that answer provided by the people in my town, or is that answer provided by a burger restaurant that's paying $1 million to have their link pop up first? So that's another problem. But I think when we're talking about tools like this and generative AI, there's not a link here. It's going to give you an answer. How it gets that answer, we can dig deeper into. But I think that's a great segue, and I want to, open it up to the floor. If anyone has any questions they want to ask our AI chatbot, we can try it out here.
Right. I know you were waiting a while. You had a question, right? Yeah.
My concern, I'm hearing talk through the news media and so forth that the Chinese way ahead of us in AI progress. And I'm just wanting to know what you might say about that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely extremely competitive landscape. I would say for now we are ahead, and what I would say to go forward is we need a huge emphasis on education. They put a huge emphasis on education, specifically engineering and all of that, and I think we need to continue investing in that and investing in the future of our children in order for us to continue to win that frontier. So.
Yeah, and then the DeepSeek is, I'm guessing that's what you're referencing. Microsoft found out last week, if you keep asking its underlying code, if you keep talking to DeepSeek, it's actually Copilot. So they actually just took the algorithm from Copilot, and that's what DeepSeek is based on. So we're still ahead, but we're good.
Any other questions?
These are really good questions, y'all.
Yeah, they're great. Anybody have something they want to ask Copilot or?
Marcia, I was just going to ask, Microsoft, Google, Apple, what's the difference? You're all doing the same thing. How does all of that integrate? How do you know what you're getting, or that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think to me the difference is the platforms that we use. A lot of the Microsoft AI realizes itself in computers, in Bing, if you use the Bing search engine. Apple, a lot of what you'll see from Apple will be in their computers or your iPhone. Google, they have their own phone, and a lot of the Google platform is based on Google Search and Google Chrome. So their AI stuff is built in their platform, and that's where you can find them. Amazon.
Is it shared information or not?
The information is not shared between the companies because we are competitors, but where they pull their information from is oftentimes a lot of the same place. Yeah.
What's the difference between Google search and your search?
I would say the difference between, there's not much of a big difference. Google search is a lot more used, I would say, in terms of the queries per year, queries per day, the amount of questions that are asked. They probably have 60 to 70% of that market. So they're just a lot more penetrated in terms of how many people use Google. When you think Google, you think asking questions, versus you think Microsoft, you think computers, and stuff like that.
It's just preference at this point. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Just different company hosting.
Yeah. Cool.
I'd be interested in your opinion of what the current roadblocks or choke points are for AI going forward. Is it processing power, or access to data? Will quantum computing make a difference, or what's holding us up from going to the next step?
Yeah, I think you answered the question.
Yeah.
I
wanted your opinion.
So my opinion, 100%, it's definitely a large piece of it is processing power.
Mm-hmm.
Energy is a huge piece of it. These algorithms and these things take a lot of energy to run. And ideally, we're moving in a more sustainable world where we can use renewable energy to run these algorithms. And then, Aaron can talk a lot about, the data center piece and what it takes to host all of the data that we use. So,
Yeah, so for the past, a lot of the regions, which they're Azure regions, and they host a bunch of different data centers. So the one in Texas is actually in San Antonio. There's been problems because you all know about the Texas power grid. So we've been having a resource allocation problem within the data centers for the past 2 or 3 years, just because not from we have the processing power, we just don't have the actual physical power to support it in the data centers because of the grid. So you have things like that. And then I referenced, he had a question about the logistics and why things are still costing that much. It's really just coming down to paying for the processing power, paying for the power to get there, and just actually having the power to supply. So a lot of that, if we get there, and then I think it was just this past week, I think Microsoft created a new quantum chip, right?
Yeah.
So like that is there. It's really just the power.
Yeah, so, and I think when we're talking about quantum computing and what difference does that make versus the regular computer chips we have, when you're talking about these huge problems like cancer research, if you think about throwing darts on a dartboard and the bullseye is the solution to a cancer problem. And with the small chips that we have, and they're still extremely powerful, but you still need to throw a lot of darts, probably like 50,000 darts before you even get a chance at answering a cancer problem. But what a quantum computer can do is it can throw 1 million darts where our current chips are throwing, 1,000 darts. So the chance for you to hit the bullseye in that same amount of time is far, far greater. So when we're talking about things like quantum computing and what that can do for problems like that, which are a lot of times like probability and how many tries does it take to get the answer, quantum computing can really streamline that and open the landscape for us to solve a lot of those extremely hard life sciences kind of problems. Yeah.
Have we ever thought of combining our interests and, for example, Google and Microsoft and working together?
That is a great suggestion. I think in terms of the American economy and competition, I unfortunately don't see that happening.
I don't either.
Yep. That's capitalism. That's the whole thing is yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I keep hearing from friends of mine that there have been people that have put a lot of information in. For example, something as simple as doing a personnel survey or personnel evaluation, and they're starting to do those with AI instead of writing out each one.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard of these stories, you can tell me if they're true or not, that they put a lot of information in and then all of a sudden the computer or the information is kind of taking it over and doing, coming back and saying, no, you're not doing that right, this is what, is that even possible?
Yeah, I think it is possible for the AI to give you an answer. I think what's important is the human discretion to take that answer or not take that answer. And I think, we can try it here and say, hey, what should I eat today? And let's actually try that. So,
Well, let me check the menu first.
Oh yeah, let me see if I can.
Control plus.
Like little ants back here.
Yeah.
We're trying Copilot, is that what we're trying?
Yes, we're trying Copilot. All right. Let's see.
I never know what to do.
Tex-Mex breakfast taco.
Hey, that's not good.
Sushi burritos, vegan Buddha bowl, barbecue brisket sandwich, poke bowl, spicy ramen. Okay, let's iterate on the answer. I'm from.
So that answer, you can kind of tell it is based off where your location is on your device. You can tell it's pulling it based off your location because nowhere else is going to say brisket unless it's Texas, right?
So let's see. Okay, now we got chicken fried steak. Sounding better to me. Jalapeno cornbread. Okay.
We're in Texas.
We got some gumbo.
Sausage gumbo. That's good.
And we
Barbecue
edit
ribs.
one more time to say, my doctor says I need less sodium. What should I eat today for breakfast?
But I'm still from Texas.
And so I'm gonna intentionally leave the Texas part out because we said it earlier, so it should remember. So we'll see.
So it's already learned what you feed you fed it.
What exactly? So now we've got oatmeal, Greek yogurt with honey, avocado toast, egg white omelet,
And naturally.
chia pudding. Nice. Anybody want a recipe for one of these?
We can give it to our cooks downstairs. So.
Oh yeah, okay. So we have cooks downstairs. Okay, let's try that.
John?
And also, you see how you had like a typo? I noticed when you type in there, it would assume, it makes assumptions on what you're talking about. So typos are actually fine.
So typos.
Yeah, I'll intentionally, I'll leave that one for.
Yeah, there you go.
I can never spell recipe or receipt.
Try this. Nice.
There you go. Strawberries, blueberries, or mix them up.
Smoothie. So we got some berries, banana, spinach leaves, almond milk, chia seeds, ice cubes, and we got instructions. Okay.
Yep.
Egg white omelet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Eggs are too expensive to use 4 of them.
Let your cooks downstairs know and enjoy your delicious, healthy breakfast.
First computer I had was Windows 95.
Wow.
Okay, I hate to even start talking about it. It's not even, no, that's just, I'm mentioning it to these guys. You ever hear of Windows 95?
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah, I think the first Windows that I used was Windows Vista.
Visa?
Yeah, because I wasn't alive.
I used 95 before.
Yeah, I used 95 back then.
You'll be surprised on
Ancient history, man.
You'll be surprised on what servers are being used in the government that are still really old.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah.
You hear that? Can't believe it.
So when you go to those government sites and they just kind of suck, that's why.
That's good.
Kept moving.
Yeah, that's good.
But I've used Microsoft forever.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of my fears, like a month ago, I searched about electric bikes. And all of a sudden, I'm getting all sorts of advertisements for electric bikes. So they're picking up what, and getting more information about me. And I really fear that other people that are on the criminal side are gathering this information from whatever we search and whatever we do, they get information. And I don't know how many safeguards there are out there.
Yeah, I think that is a very valid fear. I think I experience a lot of the same thing of if I'm looking and I start searching for, what's a movie theater in town, and now I'm seeing a lot of movie ads, I think a lot of that is, once again, part of the world that we're moving into, and security is being a foundational piece of that, and how do you protect that data exchange? But then also, how do you make the customers feel secure with the devices that they're using? And I think my advice for that is just to be careful about what you search and about things like that. But yeah, I think more so than that, with the electric bike thing, I don't think there's a huge security risk of someone knowing that you're searching for an electric bike and they're not going to deliver one at your front door. So, yeah.
I have a question on that same note. With unfortunately, we've got a crazy violent epidemic in our school systems, and you hear a lot of time about weapons being built by these people, and that's a good example of something that someone would look up, how to make something or how to 3D print a gun.
Yeah.
And so on the opposite side, is there someone tracking kind of the risk for something someone would search?
Yeah, there is. So I think that's the benefit of it as well, is, you know, now that this information is so much more accessible, if if the government and the law enforcement agencies are seeing that you're searching, you know, how to build a bomb every night at 11 p.m., that's definitely putting you on a watch list, for sure. So, yeah. Cool.
Do the police have access to that information as well? Is that sent to them if someone's, you know, making plans to bomb things or whatever? How do they get that information?
So in the world of hackers, there's different levels of hackers. Basically, there's superhero hackers and there's villain hackers, right? The people on the federal side, which are basically the people who are sitting in the Pentagon, who have like a whole section of the Pentagon, which is probably like 5,000 employees. They're the ones looking at that. They're the ones that have the clearance to get all that data. If they really wanted to hack into your computer, they actually could, but you know, we trust them because they're the government, but that's what's happened.
Cool.
But that's federal, and I don't touch federal for a reason, but yeah.
I have a relevant question to ask as well. Just there's a lot of change and stuff going on right now, and I'm curious. You know, Caitlin found you guys for a very specific reason. We're so glad to have you here, and the knowledge that you're bringing is invaluable to us, and we're very grateful. And it is Black History Month, and we're excited to celebrate in many different ways. But I'm curious, how has Microsoft taken on kind of these big changes with DEI, and how does that affect you personally if you take this opportunity to speak to it?
Yeah, thank you. That is a great question. I think the Microsoft has, in terms of the different corporate landscape, Microsoft has taken a really good standpoint on the political issue. And internally at Microsoft, we have employee resource groups. Blacks at Microsoft, BAM is one of them. There's women's at Microsoft, there's veterans at Microsoft, there's disabilities at Microsoft, there's indigenous people at Microsoft, there's Hispanic people at Microsoft. So there's all of these employee resource groups, and Microsoft is continuing to fund them. They're not dismantling them. And you know, in terms of the DEI practice, you know, it's not just hired based on that. You know, like I graduated from UT Austin. I formerly was an engineer. I interned at Microsoft for 3 summers before I went full time. And so the quality of talent that Microsoft continues to bring in is still at an all-time high, but at the end of the day, Microsoft is a global company. And so the way Microsoft views it is, in order for us to continue to serve a global, worldwide audience, we need to have diverse perspectives on our teams to be able to deliver a product that resonates with everyone. And I hope that every company in the world takes on that point of view, because at the end of the day, if you want to go sell a product in Africa or you want to go sell a product in Latin America, if you don't know how to translate that product to their language and their dialect, it's not going to resonate with them. So, yeah. Thank you, though. That was a great question.
That's worth celebrating, yeah.
Cool.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is
No problem. Cool.
Yeah, I also want to especially thank Bryce, because Bryce created this whole presentation. So can we get another round of applause for Bryce?
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, and I know Caitlin's texting us from the back. We'd love to have you all back again.
Oh, yeah.
This is incredible. We want to amplify your voices and the reach of this incredible program. So thank you.
Yeah, because I can let...
If you need a 65+ control group.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great.
She's volunteered.
Thank you.
Because I'm currently the president of the Blacks at Microsoft for Austin, San Antonio. I'm one of the 4 people that started the actual organization 6 years ago. But I'm saying that to let you know that all the other ERGs he's talked about, I can let them know that, you know, you guys are wanting more presentations and things like that, so they can come present.
Especially since March is Women's History Month. So
Yeah.
we're trying to work with SMU, trying to work with local areas. So
Because the militaries at Microsoft, they're mostly in San Antonio, but they'll definitely drive up if it's needed. Yeah.
I have a question also, one last question, I'm so sorry, and also just a comment for all of you know. Currently, this community is a part of a pilot where we're testing through LifeLoop, which is our internal program platform for engagement. It's, you know, our resident tracking attendance, and we create programs in there and calendar them. Anyway, we're part of a pilot with LifeLoop trying out their AI aspect. And I wondered if that'd be something that we could invite you guys for a panel discussion one time, just as a guest to give your feedback. But what you all should know is what it is it helps us to quickly listen to your biography or put in your likes and interests, and then the AI will turn out, you know, some really interesting information suggesting programs for you that you might love and activity suggestions for you. So that's kind of, just so everyone knows, we're part of that pilot right now. It hasn't started yet, but it's fun.
Appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We need AI to take this picture.